Hello, and thank you for joining us for yet another episode of That Solo Life. We are the podcast for people who work in marketing and PR and who are working for themselves, whether you're a solo shop, a micro agency, or working together with other solos. It's all good right here. I am Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters. I am here as ever with my wonderful co host, Karen Swim. She keeps us all together at Solo PR Pro, the place where solos hang out. How are you,
Forgot to
Karen?
mention that you guys keep me all together too, and that is it does require the whole entire tribe.
It's the magnificent brain trust of Solo PR Pro. And, the beauty of that is, I mean, no place is a utopia, but it is especially our private Facebook group is such a safe space to be vulnerable and ask what you might think is a silly question or really think things through. Why am I saying that? Because it kind of speaks to our topic today, which is civil discourse. And I have to say, it's not like a heavy handed, moderated kind of group. Well, I guess because we're all communication pros, we know how to be. And so we would just want to touch on that because I think, as everyone knows, it seems the longer this pandemic situation continues, just the the harsher things seem to be out there. And we just have to be constantly reminding ourselves and each other to lead with some kindness and thoughtfulness and think before you speak. And, I, I think it could speak to our global exhaustion that we are just kind of on a bit of a hair trigger, and so today we just want to take a couple of minutes and just, kind of reset and regroup and just think, do we really need to be so harsh right now? No.
I love this topic, and as part of my participation in PRSA, I am also on a committee called Voices for Everyone, and there's subcommittees. And so I'm on the subcommittee that deals with mal, and
Mhm.
disinformation. And of course, one of the things that we talk about is in this environment, we are, developing resources and tabs for communicators to engage in civil discourse. And this is a really important topic that honestly doesn't get discussed in depth enough because, as you said, Michelle, there are so many triggers these
Mhm.
days, and the pandemic has caused a lot of weariness and a lot of anger. We can't say that it's all because of political divisions, although
Right.
those are very true.
Yeah.
We're divided on so many issues, and people are angry, and some of that anger is coming from stress,
Mhm.
stress about the restrictions and, the world just not being normal. Some of the anger is from job stress, lack of job stress, lack of childcare. It's just, the
Right.
world is not the same, and we know that. So, but as communication pros, we have to manage our own self care in these days because
Yes.
we're human beings too, and we're experiencing all of those things that our audiences are experiencing. However, we have to put on that communications cap and figure out how to have these discussions thoughtfully, how to communicate in this crazy environment. And,
Right.
that is not always easy.
Right, right. I mean, I think toward I'm sure we've seen it, maybe even participated in it on social media, as you say, the different trains of thought regarding the pandemic. And, you know, you're never going to convince anyone just by sitting down and shouting at them, "You're wrong." Even waving facts in their faces. It's you have to actually get to the level of, "Hey, let's grab a cup of coffee virtually or, you know, in person and just talk." That's the way you're going to at least come to a consensus because, agree to disagree is lacking today, because, we don't want to lose sight of that truth is truth. You can't really dispute truth. But because of misinformation, which is such a problem. Everyone's got their own silo of truth, but, to just keep ramming at each other isn't gonna get anybody anywhere, and it's just gonna exhaust you even more.
Yeah.
So, and I know we have to get to our own place with that, um, especially just
It we yeah, but when you put on that communications hat, that
yeah,
means that you're stepping into a position where and you can look at the PRSA code of ethics for this. You want to be fair and balanced,
right,
period.
right,
There's just no room for a gray area on that. And so
correct,
you want to make sure that, on behalf of your clients, or if you're in-house on behalf of your organization, that you're sharing accurate, fact checkable information. And make sure that you're sharing credible sources that are not inherently biased on one side or another side. So if
yeah,
you are in a healthcare profession, you want to present balanced information. You don't want to share stuff that, from a position of, well, that uses terms like anti-vaxxers, which I
yes,
really hate that term. And as
right,
communicators, I feel like we should hate it, because when you start to do pro and anti,
mhm,
those are triggers that
yeah,
really anger anybody who's not on whatever side. And you're inherently setting up people to take sides.
right,
As a healthcare organization, if you work for healthcare, which is, a good example in these times, your role should be to disseminate accurate information that allows people to come to decisions. You want to equip them, you want to empower them. And
right,
I think that with all of us, that really is kind of the goal, is that, remember, as a PR pro, you not only serve your client or organization, but you have a responsibility to their audiences. Doesn't mean that you always are going to personally agree with those audiences.
right, right,
Chances are you will not. There will be people in your audience that will want to make your head spin. But is the goal to engage them, to share information, to be
right,
a help to them? Ultimately, we know the goal is to create that relationship or sustain that relationship with the brand that you're representing. And so you can't do that, as you said, Michelle, by
right,
shouting at them or saying, "You're stupid, you're wrong, you're just wrong. I hate your opinion, I hate your values." It just, that
right.
doesn't work.
No, no, that doesn't work personally or professionally, and, I loved what you said about, you know, truth is truth, and we have to stick to that, and, we're working on behalf of our clients and to keep their audience in mind, and especially when you said the pro and the anti, the words we choose, we know this, right? We know, and I think sometimes it becomes so second nature to us that we don't, talk about it more. Uh, you know, I call myself a word nerd, and I wear that as a badge of honor because, yes, I'm not gonna say you anti-vaxxers, because that's loaded with connotation. And so you've just communicated everything. Anything else, people are gonna be blinded to. They're not gonna listen. They're just gonna shut down and form an opinion about your message. So really keep in mind, the goal as you craft your content. That's
Yeah, and
just so key.
I think at the heart of civil discourse is, because discourse implies that there's going to be some interaction, right? So it's not
Mhm.
just you spitting things at people.
Right.
I think at the heart of that is learning to listen without judgment.
Mhm.
I always try to take a step back and listen for the things that people are not saying, and
Mhm.
listen for those underlying messages. Like, what's the rationale? What's driving them? And as a communicator, that's important insights for us to have, because
Mhm.
once we understand what's beneath the shouting, what's beneath the words that are coming out of people's mouth, we can really start to get to the heart, and it helps us to communicate better. It helps us to
Right.
hit on what's really important to them. And so, I think that you do have to listen. And so we all
Mhm.
know that the way that we do that as communicators, there's lots of tools for us to listen to our audiences. We want to take advantage of that. You can also, develop, relationships with with your brand's community, by having things where you invite them to come in and you can lead civil discourse
Mhm.
discussions on topics that are relevant to your organization. Doing that in a structured manner, setting the rules and helping people to talk through things respectfully without shouting and without assuming that one opinion is the only opinion and the right opinion.
Right.
That's just not a fair and balanced place to be. It really is not. And unfortunately, I see this happening with pros these days where they're so caught up in their position that they see the world through that lens. And I don't even think that they realize, because in their mind, whatever they're opposing is so egregious that it's of course wrong. And
Mm.
it's a dangerous place to be as a
Yeah.
communicator.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even though some things are black and white, relationships have a lot of shades of gray.
Yeah,
Just getting outside the PR specific world, but I know we've all seen, "Oh, I just cut them off." And I'm thinking, "Well, I mean, how can you
yeah,
there's value to most every relationship." I mean, there's unless you're Charles Manson, or Manson-esque.
yeah,
Um, but I getting back to what you said about involving the community, because a lot of when people react in a way that's negative, a lot of it is based out of insecurity, fear, the unknown. So when you do start a discourse with your community, you're giving them some ownership just by pulling them into the conversation. You're helping them feel a bit of belonging, and that goes a long way to being heard. As you
yeah,
also try to find out where they're coming from. It's like, okay, you feel this way. What caused that? Why is that? Is it because of some piece of information or misinformation that you've been hearing over and over again? I mean, I know I experience it even personally, just, kind of knowing where some people get their information from, and they'll say, "Oh, what about this?" And I'm thinking, I'm pretty keyed up on current events. I don't know what you're talking about. So I'll look it up and I'll go, "Oh, okay, that's working for that segment of the population. Okay, good to
yeah,
know." Um, and honestly, as a communicator, it's good to know that on a larger sense of, okay, this is where some people are coming from. I can't just see it through my experience um, personally or what I think I know about everything. You really have to,
yeah.
have all
And
your sensors working.
I think that you hit like a key point that we cannot personalize. As a
Right.
communicator, you just cannot afford to do that because you have to. And of course, we all know that we also have inherent biases.
Sure.
So you have to work to make sure that your biases are not getting in the way of your work. How do you do that? First of all, by being aware that they exist and by enrolling a diverse group of people in decisions. So you shouldn't be
Right.
working in, a silo with everybody that shares the same opinion. It's really important to be challenged because those challenges and that diversity of thought really leads you to richer communication materials.
Right.
It allows you to really see things through different lenses that you might miss because we all have them. We all have those blinders. And so we have to work around those blinders and make sure that we're expanding our lens by using other people to do that.
Right.
Now, again, as solos, you may not have a team of people, but you have a group that you can run key things by to, get some feedback. And then you, of course, can use the tools that are available to all communicators. That's why we do surveys and polling and
Right.
focus groups. And, within your own client organizations, take things beyond the communications and marketing functions, bring in other people, types of people from the company. If it's big enough, to do something around and that, the company is paying for you to do this, then it's important enough for you to
Right.
involve more people. So talk to your client about involving different functions. Bring in somebody from product or engineering or finance to, you know, have their reaction to messaging, positioning, or a campaign that you want to run, you'll be
Right.
surprised what other people see that you is right in front of your face and you're
Yeah.
missing.
Yeah. No, that is so true. It's so true. And we're lucky to have all these tools at our disposal. But it's taking that first step and knowing that, you know what, maybe we should check this out. And it could just be something as simple as, I've talked with trade groups that I've worked with of, well, should we still have this event? And is it still of value to our sponsors? And I said, well, easy way to find out, ask them.
Yes. Yes.
See
Oh,
what they think, that way you can make
yeah.
an informed decision. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Questions are your best friend in civil
yeah,
discourse because when you take away that need to be right and that need to challenge and you step back and begin to question, like, okay, well, that's really interesting. Tell me more about,
right,
why you believe that, you know.
right,
And this is not to say that you are as a communicator engaging trolls in civil discourse.
right, right,
And we all understand how to make that different distinction between those who really are your audience and really are engaged, but maybe are challenging the brand's positioning or messaging, and those who really are just looking to stir up trouble. So the
right.
troublemakers, we have a different way of handling them. But for the audience, you really do want to keep them engaged and you want to hear them and you want to learn how to have these discussions and you want to have them respectfully. And again, respect is really key because we too often these days, and it's driving me over the edge, we see human beings as the enemy. Like,
Yeah.
people are not your enemy. They are not on this earth to destroy you. And not,
Yes.
this competition where you need to see that you have to win every argument. And I promise you, some people's personalities are just that way.
Yeah.
This is the time to pull back because it's dangerous and it's turning people off. And
Mhm.
I see this, 100 times a day on social media.
Yeah.
Sometimes between communicators, even where they're duking it out or they're saying stuff and they're saying it with such a forceful opinion. And it's like, "Hmm, well, other people
Yeah.
think differently.
And,
And your opinion is
yeah.
really like the gospel truth."
Yeah. It's
I'm
like,
the same.
what are the stakes here? What are we talking about? It depends, what it is. It's like, well, okay. And then you just kind of get to the point where, do I really want to be putting the energy toward this or energy toward something more productive? And hey, it happens.
But I honestly believe for as a communicator, this profession that I'm so proud
Yeah.
to work in, I really do have a responsibility
Yes.
to model
Yeah.
what this profession is supposed to model.
Yeah.
So, and listen, I can be as guilty as anyone. I get mad.
You
I
and we I
sit there,
was gonna say,
I
we
say
all
I'm
have
mad
our
about it,
moments,
and
but
I say why I'm mad about it.
you're
But I
right.
responsibility to take accountability for the words that
Yeah.
I put out into the atmosphere. I have a responsibility to fact check and share from credible sources, to
Right.
read and to understand. And if I'm sharing an opinion, to state it as an opinion and not a
Correct.
fact. Um,
Correct.
because if I can't model these
Yeah.
things, if I can't model spreading accurate information,
Right.
engaging in civil discourse, then how am I doing my job? And so I do
Correct.
think it's important. And I think that we are in this unique position to really be able to guide and teach other people by our own actions.
Yeah, and the key word there, like you said, credible, and that's the lens that I put everything through, that I put out, is this going to build my credibility or is it going to damage it? Because at the end of the day, that's all we really have is our credibility. That yes, I can do this job. I can do this job well. Well, says who? Well, my track record and the things I say and do are really it. It's not like it's not like, we take a CPA exam. I mean, there is the APR, but
Yes.
in the day-to-day of what we do, it's not like there's quantifiable scientific data at the end of our day, right? So, your credibility is is so key, and to maintain that and to demonstrate that, I think is so important. I mean, does it say that I will not defend Gritty on Twitter? Absolutely not. I will fight to the death for Gritty. But, in things that, are some of our hot button issues, it's like, I'm
Yeah.
I
I we fight about everything these days, we really
yeah,
it's really sad.
it's a little cray cray.
It's really sad. We should be less angry. That's a good start to
Should.
having civil discourse. Gotta remove the emotion. Please be less angry.
Everyone take a deep breath in, exhale through your mouth. Let's start some meditation on here.
Take a deep breath, please.
No, but yeah, I mean, at the end of it all, it's like just give it a second. If you know you're in the heat of the moment on something, take a few seconds, just think, all right, is this purposeful? Is it gonna, get us anywhere, or am I just blowing off some steam? And, really kind of take inventory on where the platform that you're doing this and how it might be received and, is it gonna be detrimental down the road. Um, and, you know, similar lens when you're helping your clients put things together. How is this going to benefit them long term? How is it going to help them build their relationships? And, just keep it civil is pretty much what we're trying to say today.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
with the civil discourse issue, because sometimes this does play out on social media, it's really
Yeah.
important. That's why we have these checklists. And
Yeah.
because it's real time doesn't mean that everything has to happen in that moment. And if you're
Right.
unsure about, a response or how to engage someone, take a step back and seek out a second opinion. That's
Yes.
really helpful.
Yeah.
That can be from your client organization, it can be from another trusted colleague, but you can give yourself breath because these are big issues and these are things that we shouldn't run away from because we know that we're going to run into differences of opinion and we're going to run into people that are not going to agree with your messaging or something that you're doing, and you need to be strong enough and
Right.
confident enough to handle these situations because that's our job. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's becoming a bigger part of our job because the world, unfortunately, we are where we are and people are
Yeah.
just mad. They're just mad. Um, so learning how to handle mad people, I mean, people are mad about everything. I have seen the craziest disputes, and I'm thinking, wow, you guys. I mean, it's really like whatever you think is okay, somebody is ready to argue with you about it. You can
Yeah.
say you love the color blue or, and like that
Yeah.
shouldn't be an issue, but I promise you it will turn into an argument because somebody will point out that blue is tied to some organization
Right.
that it does horrific things and what that says about you as a human being. And
Yeah.
it just some of the connections that we make these days are
Yeah.
like, I really just thought it was a pretty color.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everything is taking a stand on something.
Not everything is taking a stand, but everybody seems to be taking a stand on everything.
Yeah.
So, again, it's important to do this job without the emotion that can lead to bad decisions. Have a checklist, have your people that can,
Yeah.
bring it into alignment, have people that you can talk things through with, and make sure that you actively seek out that diversity of
Mhm.
thought. And when you're engaging people, be respectful, be factual, and listen and ask questions instead of judgment. We've got to take that judgment out
Yeah.
of the equation. You can't be judging your audience.
Yeah.
They will hate you for it.
Right. Yeah. They won't take kindly to that. Yeah. And and like we said in this time together, it can all start with a simple conversation, whether that's one person or a massive audience. There are ways, which is a wonderful thing. So we wish you well. We thank you for joining us again for another episode of That Solo Life. And until next time, thanks for listening.